Good evening, you're watching London Live News at 6 with Helen Awadia. Coming up tonight, the Mayor of London wants an honest, open conversation about UK cannabis laws as Home Secretary Priti Patel rebukes his decision to create a London Drugs Commission. Another 50 fines have been issued as part of the police investigation into Downing Street parties during COVID restrictions, as the Prime Minister confirms he did not receive another notice this time round. We'll have an update on London's weather in the next 10 minutes. Plus, the impact of the pandemic on loneliness is laid bare as we look into the effect on teenagers' ability to make friends this Mental Health Awareness Week. And an exhibition on the Strand that mixes art, technology and vivid light displays. We take a look at the Future Shock installation a little later. First tonight, though, a new group looking at whether to decriminalise cannabis in the UK has been set up by the Mayor of London. Sadiq Khan created the London Drugs Commission, which will use research from University College London and be chaired by former Justice Secretary Lord Charlie Faulkner. It comes after Mr Khan's recent visit to the US, where he praised the high standards of legalised cannabis farms.
I think we need to have an honest, open conversation about the evidence in relation to the issue of cannabis and whether our laws in the UK, whether our experience of the health consequences in relation to crime, consequences in the community, what the future is. And the best way to do that is with the Drugs Commission we've set up. We've now appointed a former Lord Chancellor, a former Justice Secretary, a Queen's Counsel, and Lord Faulkner to head that up. You can hear from the experts, that's one thing, but seeing it for yourself is very different. And hearing from not just the politicians in City Hall, but hearing from those who cultivate this plant, grow this, and are successful business people has been fascinating. It's quite clearly heavily regulated. There are really high standards. No corners are being cut. They're regularly inspected by the city, by the experts. The environment's really important, and so it's important to see for ourselves what the parallel world of legalised cannabis looks like as a compare and contrast. And what I hope the London Drugs Commission will do is look at what happens elsewhere in the world where the laws have been changed.
Well, Home Secretary Priti Patel today hit back at the Mayor's plan, writing that he has no powers to legalise drugs, which ruin communities and destroy lives. A spokesperson for the Labour Party also said that drugs policy is not devolved to mayors and under Labour would continue to be set by a national government. Well, Mr Khan's trip to the US was partly to investigate an international evidence-based approach to reducing drug-related harm here in the capital. Now, the number of fines issued by the Metropolitan Police in relation to Downing Street parties during COVID restrictions has today doubled to more than 100. Boris Johnson has confirmed that neither he nor his wife had received another fine, as a spokesperson for the Prime Minister reiterated there would be more to say once the full report by Sue Gray has been published. Well, Mr Johnson, his wife Carrie and Chancellor Rishi Sunak were handed fixed penalty notices in April over a birthday party held for the Prime Minister in Number 10's Cabinet Room in June 2020. The Met Police has revealed gun crime in London has significantly reduced. Lethal barrel discharges have reduced by 37% so far this year, compared to the same period last year, with the number of shootings also reducing by almost 90. The Met said investigations into shootings are becoming stronger with long-term intelligence-led operations, meaning the capital is now a hostile place for criminals transporting firearms. The capital's largest Ukrainian school has called on the government for funding after a growing number of refugee pupils have joined. St Mary's Ukrainian School in West London has more than doubled its intake, meaning there are now 550 pupils, with more arriving each week. The Holland Park Saturday School was originally for British-born children of Ukrainians, but has now set up classes for refugees to continue with the Ukrainian curriculum and provide support and learning to parents as well. The headmistress pled for funding after saying their savings are dwindling. A Department for Education spokeswoman said they are committed to finding school places for Ukrainian children and are working closely with the sector to provide services to them. New figures have shown that nearly a quarter of patients in England who had hospital operations cancelled in the first part of this year had still not been treated 28 days later. The figures are similar to 2021's, as both years have seen delays due to the COVID-19 pandemic. The Midlands saw the highest proportion of cancellations which were not treated, but here in the capital the level varies. None of the 208 patients who had operations cancelled at Bart's Health Trust were treated within 28 days, but all of the 215 cancellations at the trust in the northwest of the capital were seen. Analysts have warned the UK could be heading for a recession after the economy shrank and the rising cost of living hit households. The Office for National Statistics revealed the economy contracted by 0.1% in March, saying people were spending less in shops and cutting down on car journeys due to high fuel prices. Well, it comes after the Bank of England forecast that inflation could reach more than 10% by the end of the year. Well, Justice Minister Victoria Atkins acknowledged the UK was in challenging times.
These are very challenging times. We're still dealing with the hangover of the pandemic, and of course Putin's attack on Ukraine has very much made worse pressures such as energy prices. And so this is why this week with the Queen's speech we were very much focused on producing a legislative framework to help grow our economy over the coming years. And last year we had the fastest growing economy in the G7 because of the actions that we took, the calls we made on things such as the vaccine rollout. We know that the figures are going down a bit now, but we very much are on track to grow our way out of this in 24-25. So it is difficult news. We're taking it very seriously, but we have a plan to deal with this in the coming months and years.
A project to bulldoze the former ITV studios to build new tower blocks on the South Bank has been halted by the government. Lambeth Council had approved the scheme in March, but resident anger about the 25-storey skyscraper has led to Community Secretary Mikel Gove halting the plans. The building includes plans for restaurants, shops and a new gallery. However, the Waterloo Community Development Group called it a disastrously ugly project. A spokesperson for the site said it would benefit the area and create new jobs. Well, Mikel Gove will now decide whether it should be scrapped. Well, ahead of Charles and Camilla's 3-day tour of Canada, the royals visited London's Canada House today, where they met Canadian artists, entrepreneurs, academics and politicians. They also spoke to the country's High Commissioner, Ralph Goodale, who praised the Queen for her unparalleled dedication and reinforced the ties between the UK and Canada.
Her Majesty has been a very frequent visitor to Canada, 22 times over the course of her platinum reign, and Prince Charles has been to the country many times as well. I remember sharing a helicopter with him as we flew over the plains of southern Saskatchewan. But it's important to constantly refresh the relationship and to think about it in the terms of what it will mean tomorrow and next year and 10 years from now. The history and the heritage is a very profound and solid foundation, but the real magic of the relationship is thinking about what it means for the future.
On to sport now, and one of the biggest North London derbies in recent memory kicks off this evening. Arsenal travelled to Tottenham 4 points above their arch rivals, knowing a win will secure a top 4 place in the league and Champions League football for next season. A win for Spurs, though, will see them move to just 1 point behind the Gunners, with 2 games to play this season. Well, Arsenal haven't been in Europe's top competition for 5 years, and boss Mikel Arteta reflected on the significance of tonight's match.
The most exciting one, probably, but we had others when we played the finals against Chelsea and Liverpool in the FA Cup and Community Shield. It was the same. It's when you have the opportunity to achieve one of your objectives in the season. It's just can't wait to play the game, because this is a job and the work that you've done throughout the season to try to earn it. The message is clear that if we win against them, we're in the Champions League next season. And I don't think you need any more motivation and to tell them anything less than that. The opportunity is there, and we're going to play and go for it like we always do, because it's how we have come into this position, and that's how we're going to approach it.
Well, Tottenham's manager Antonio Conte took on the job in November, and Spurs were sat 9th in the table, and Conte believes he's improved his team to even fight for a Champions League spot, and thanked his players ahead of the game.
These 7 months, they shown me great commitment, great behavior, to be involved at 120% in every things that I gave them, and for this reason I repeat, and I have to tell thanks to them. And if now we are in this position and we have the possibility to fight for a place in Champions League, it means that the players improved a lot, and they made an important step forward.
There we are. Well, the North London derby kicks off at 7:45 this evening. Time now for a check on the weather. This warm weather is set to continue, with temperatures staying in the double figures. It's about 10 degrees overnight and tomorrow morning. Tomorrow it's a little warmer than today, sunny intervals and some cloud, with temperatures at around 21 degrees. Looking ahead to the weekend, it should be a glorious Saturday, sun all day and highs of 22. On Sunday, the cloud creeps in a bit, but still lovely and warm at 21 degrees. Well, just before the break, let's bring you this. Take That legend Robbie Williams has teamed up with interior designer Ed Goodrich for a debut exhibition here in the capital. Well, each of the paintings are called after a popular female name from the 80s, which have inspired their artworks, all of which are rooted in the rave and music scene from that era. The 14 works, called the Black and White Paintings exhibition, will open tomorrow at Sotheby's New Bond Street Galleries in central London and run until May 25th. Time for a break now, but when we come back, London Live's paper reviewer Matt Withers will be here to run us through the stories making headlines in this week's local papers, with more local sports news, including a museum exhibition dedicated to Harry Kane.
From breaking news to headline events, the latest trends and places to be.
You can now keep up to date on daily life in London across London Live's social platforms.
Start the day with an update on the travel and weather, and know what's on around the city and what's being seen by others.
With stories from London Live's team of reporters and your videos of the news moments that matter.
Minute by minute. That's London Live News on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram and more.
Find us at London Live. From breaking news to headline events, the latest trends and places to be.
You can now keep up to date on daily life in London across London Live's social platforms.
Start the day with an update on the travel and weather, and know what's on around the city and what's being seen by others.
With stories from London Live's team of reporters and your videos of the news moments that matter.
Minute by minute. That's London Live News on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram and more.
Find us at London Live. From breaking news to headline events, the latest trends and places to be.
You can now keep up to date on daily life in London across London Live's social platforms.
Start the day with an update on the travel and weather. And know what's on around the city and what's being seen by others.
With stories from London Live's team of reporters and your videos of the news moments that matter.
Minute by minute. That's London Live News on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram and more.
Find us at London Live.
Welcome back to London Live News. Time now for a look at some of the stories making headlines in London's local papers. Well, joining us now is our paper reviewer, Matt Withers. Matt, thank you for joining us. Let's start with this. A football fan battling over some balloons.
Yes, quite. That's exactly what's happening here. This is in Brent and Kilburn Times. This is thousands of balloons that were confiscated by Brent Council before one of the FA Cup semi-finals. It was one between Crystal Palace and Chelsea. Have finally been returned to a fan who has been battling to get his balloons back. This is Rick Wilshere, the Crystal Palace fan. He took almost 30,000 balloons to the game. The plan was to hand them out to fans to release before the match to celebrate the fact that Palace are in a shout of finishing in the top half of the Premier League for the first time since 2015, which, you know, it's ambitious, isn't it? Certainly something he thought was worth celebrating. But they were taken off him. He was told it could pose a health and safety risk, and he was fined £100 for this. And he's been battling the authorities ever since to get these balloons back, saying that he meant no harm when he came up with the idea, and that what irks me the most is I had my 6-year-old son with me, and he was a bit upset seeing all these grown-ups in stab-proof vests surrounding us. Remarkable over a bunch of balloons.
Absolutely. So the balloons were taken for safety risks. Were the details of those safety risks set out at all?
Yes, a very stern Brent Council spokesperson said that safety in and around Wembley Stadium is paramount. Balloons can block aisles and escape routes. When deflated, they can create a slip hazard, and the loud noise when they burst can create panic, which is dangerous in large crowds.
Right. Well, does he plan to hand out balloons again at any matches?
He has since done it. In their last game against Watford, he handed them out, and he was allowed to. Just out of interest, I did have a quick Google before coming in to see how much it would cost one to buy 30,000 balloons. The best part, £2,500.
So he's a really big fan then?
Yes, he's a fan with a lot of expendable cash, it would appear.
Absolutely. Right, well, let's move on then. This story, some tributes being paid in Dagenham.
Yeah, absolutely. This is tributes being paid to Dora Challingsworth, who might not be a household name, but was one of the leaders, arguably the leader of the 1984 Ford factory strikes, which people may know. It followed on from the 1968 strikes there to fight for pay equality for female members of staff there, which was made into the film Made in Dagenham, which is probably how people best know the story. But actually, while progress was made then through the 1970 Equal Pay Act, female workers were still not considered skilled, so weren't getting paid the same amount as their male counterparts, who effectively doing the same job. So she led the strikes in 1984, saying it wasn't equal, we still didn't get what the men got. When we went out in 84, that's what we wanted, and we weren't going to settle for anything less. And she very successfully led a second wave of strikes. So quite a remarkable woman. A lot of tributes have been paid to her this week.
Absolutely, she did amazing work. Was she kind of aware of her kind of feminist status? Hero,
She very much played it down. She'd given an interview in 2018. She said, I really enjoyed what I did and I'm glad I did it. They say, oh, you've gone down in history and all this, but we didn't do it for that. And she very much kind of downplayed her own role as opposed to kind of the wider cause.
Absolutely. Well, amazing work from her there. Well, let's move on to this from the Islington Gazette. A museum display about footballer Harry Kane. Yeah, this is very odd. You don't normally get a museum putting on a display to a living person. Certainly not somebody who's still kind of at the top of their game, whatever profession they're in. The Islington Gazette is reporting that the Museum of London has launched Harry Kane, I Want to Play Football, a display that will be on show until December. It says here Arsenal fans may joke about the emptiness of Harry Kane's trophy cabinet, because the Spurs star famously hasn't actually won anything in his career that can go on display, but it's going to put up things like personal items, family photos, says here iconic objects to document the life of the number 10. He said the Museum of London got in touch and wanted a Londoner to inspire young children to be their best, so I'm delighted to have all my memorabilia on show. Absolutely. Well, one for the Spurs fans there. Is that you?
I'm not, no. And I do find it slightly amusing that he's doing this at the Museum of London as a proud Londoner. Of course, he spent the entirety of last summer trying to force through a move to Manchester City that didn't come about.
Well, we'll keep an eye on that exhibition there. I'm sure some young Londoners will be inspired by it. Well, finally, let's end on this. A circus, it seems, is being taunted by crows.
Yeah, well, not any crows. These are popcorn-loving crows. This is the headline on the website My London. Popcorn-loving crows caused £250,000 of damage to Zippo's circus before shows in London. And this is a travelling circus that's currently in Streatham Common. And it said it's had enormous damage done to its big top by being besieged by crows throughout its tour of London's parks. And the circus's founder, Martin Burton, said he's never seen as many crows as this year. And he thinks that they've got a taste for the popcorn that's apparently found in abundance at the shows. He says, we believe they're attracted partly by popcorn spilled by visitors.
Well, have they done anything to, try and deter the crows and keep them away from their circus?
Yeah, they have taken the classic route, really, when it comes to crows, which is to build a scarecrow. Nicholas, who's the son of the knife thrower, came up with the idea, and they placed a scarecrow on top of the ticket office at the front of the show. So how much effect that's going to have on these popcorn-loving crows is yet to be seen.
Not quite sure. Well, they're currently in Streatham. Where are they going to move to next?
They are. There's not a list here, but they're all over the place. Basically, keep an eye out for the posters near you.
Yeah, well, hopefully the crows don't follow them where they go to next. Matt Withers, thank you so much for joining us on London Live News. There we are. That was Matt Withers, our paper reviewer. Now, this Mental Health Awareness Week, it has been revealed that 1 in 6 adolescents suffer from a mental health disorder, and young people looking to meet new friends or try new things have struggled with loneliness in the last 2 years. Well, London Live has been speaking to Dr. Gabrielle Penderbury, who specialises in adolescent psychiatry, to find out what teenagers in the UK are going through and how child refugees from Ukraine may be affected as they settle here.
There's lots of support out there and people can get help. And so this week is really wonderful for raising that awareness and giving people the opportunity to voice any concerns they have and perhaps catch disorders at early stage and seek the support they need.
One of the areas you specialise in is adolescent psychiatry. So how can children be affected from such a young age to do with mental health disorders?
So recent surveys have shown that approximately 1 in 6 children have a probable mental health disorder, which is a huge amount. And we're not really sure of the reasons behind that. And we're sure that the COVID, the pandemic has been a part, one of the factors that has undoubtedly had an impact. but there seems to be much more stress on children, young people, especially the adolescent population. But what we see in childhood is it's normal for children to have a range of feelings such as anger, sadness, agitation. And normally these are resolved with parental support, problem solving, support in the community. But sometimes these feelings can last a lot longer than one would anticipate. The child can be acting out of character and can develop into more serious conditions. Even though it's rare and it's not commonplace, these extreme presentations. What we'd say is that general practitioners, counsellors in school, other allied health professionals are all very good at dealing with issues such as this. So if your child is struggling, don't wait till it gets very serious. Go and see your GP, seek appropriate support early.
The important thing of what you're saying there is it can be dealt with early. It doesn't have to get to when it's really, really dark and serious, does it?
So I think it's very much that society's changed, the stigma's reduced, people are able to talk about different areas of their life, different stresses that perhaps 5 to 10 years ago they'd have felt ashamed about talking about. And so that reduction in stigma means that early awareness, early interventions are a lot more accessible because parents, young people, teachers are able to address problems at an early stage because they know about them.
You touched upon the pandemic and how harmful that has been for children everywhere, and that certainly has been the case. And one more issue at the moment that we've seen over the last few months is, the Ukraine war, with so many families being displaced, coming to the UK, but also to London. What short and long-term effects will that have on children, on child refugees?
Gosh, I think it's a very difficult time, and the war will produce lots and lots of conflicting feelings. Shock, anger. Children might be presenting with sleep problems, denial, sadness, and with any sort of grief reaction, any trauma, it takes time to really accept what's happened and come to terms with it. And this sort of acceptance of what's happening really can be curtailed by worrying that family members and friends are still in danger in the Ukraine, or secondary stresses such as worrying about education, accommodation, access to healthcare, but also having limited information. What the World Health Organization advises is sort of psychological first aid. So that's thinking about appropriate support from those that can listen reflectively and can comfort. It's making sure that families are safe, comfortable, that their immediate practical needs are met, and that you encourage social support and community links to be able to support those families and link those families with available resources. So it's a general rule. You're wanting to reduce social isolation and perhaps introduce more structure and routine. So that links us very nicely, in a sense, with the theme of the Mental Health Awareness Week, which is loneliness. Because what we know is that health and well-being are profoundly social things, and so that social connectivity is paramount.
Well, you can find out more about Mental Health Awareness Week at mentalhealth.org.uk. You're watching London Live News with Helena Wardier. A reminder of our top story coming up after the break. Plus, London author Simon McLeave, famous for his crime novels, will be telling us about his new book, The Dark Tide. See you soon.
From From breaking news to headline events, the latest trends and places to be.
You can now keep up to date on daily life in London across London Live's social platforms.
Start the day with an update on the travel and weather, and know what's on around the city and what's being seen by others.
With stories from London Live's team of reporters and your videos of the news moments that matter.
Minute by minute. That's London Live News on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram and more.
Find us at London Live. From breaking news to headline events, the latest trends and places to be.
You can now keep up to date on daily life in London across London Live's social platforms.
Start the day with an update on the travel and weather, and know what's on around the city and what's being seen by others.
With stories from London Live's team of reporters and your videos of the news moments that matter.
Minute by minute. That's London Live News on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram and more.
Find us at London Live. From breaking news to headline events, the latest trends and places to be.
You can now keep up to date on daily life in London across London Live's social platforms.
Start the day with an update on the travel and weather, and know what's on around the city and what's being seen by others.
With stories from London Live's team of reporters and your videos of the news moments that matter.
Minute by minute. That's London Live News on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram and more.
Find us at London Live.
Welcome back to London Live News. A reminder of our top story. A new group looking at whether to decriminalise cannabis in the UK has been set up by the Mayor of London. Sadiq Khan created the London Drugs Commission, which will use research from University College London and be chaired by former Justice Secretary Lord Charlie Faulkner. It comes after Mr Khan's recent visit to the US, where he praised the high standards of legalised cannabis farms.
I think we need to have an honest, open conversation about the evidence in relation to the issue of cannabis and whether our laws in the UK, whether our experience of the health consequences consequences in relation to crime, consequences in the community, what the future is. And the best way to do that is with the Drugs Commission we've set up. We've now appointed a former Lord Chancellor, a former Justice Secretary, a Queen's Counsel, and Lord Faulkner to head that up. You can hear from the experts, that's one thing, but seeing it for yourself is very different. And hearing from not just the politicians in City Hall, but hearing from those who cultivate this plant, grow this, and are successful business people has been fascinating. And what I hope the London Drugs Commission will do is look at what happens elsewhere in the world where the laws have been changed.
Well, Home Secretary Priti Patel today hit back at the Mayor's plan, writing that he has no powers to legalise drugs, which ruin communities and destroy lives. A spokesperson for the Labour Party also said that drugs policy is not devolved to mayors and under Labour would continue to be set by a national government. Well, Mr Khan's trip to the US was partly to investigate an international evidence-based approach to reducing drug-related harm here in the capital. Now, the number of fines issued by the Metropolitan Police in relation to Downing Street parties during COVID restrictions has today doubled to more than 100. Boris Johnson has confirmed that neither he nor his wife had received another fine, as a spokesperson for the Prime Minister reiterated there would be more to say once the full report by Sue Gray has been published. Well, Mr Johnson, his wife Carrie and Chancellor Rishi Sunak were handed fixed penalty notices in April over a birthday party held for the Prime Minister in Number 10's Cabinet Room in June 2020. The capital's largest Ukrainian school has called on the government for funding after a growing number of refugee pupils have joined. St Mary's Ukrainian School in West London has more than doubled its intake, meaning there are now 550 pupils, with more arriving each week. The Holland Park Saturday School was originally for British-born children of Ukrainians, but has now set up classes for refugees to continue with the Ukrainian curriculum and provide support and learning to parents as well. The headmistress pled for funding after saying their savings are dwindling. A Department for Education spokeswoman said they are committed to finding school places for Ukrainian children and are working closely with the sector to provide services to them. Now, London-born author Simon McLeave has sold more than 1 million copies of his crime novels. His first book, The Snowdonia Killings, was released in January 2020, and he's since released 7 novels in the D.I. Ruth Hunter crime thriller series. Well, now, after signing a deal with HarperCollins, Simon is releasing a new book set on the island of Anglesey called The Dark Tide. Well, Simon has been telling Alicia more.
The Dark Tide is a brand new series. It's set on Anglesey with a new character called Laura Hart. She was the chief hostage negotiator for the Manchester police, and she has a tragedy in her life, and she moves back with her family to Anglesey to kind of sort of rebuild her life. But as soon as she gets there, obviously stuff starts to happen, so she gets involved in crime again. So that's the first book.
What's the plan now with this series? How many can we expect in this series, or do you not plan before? Do you just see what happens?
Well, the publishers have asked for 3 to start with, so I've written the second one already, and that's out in December. And now I've got to start thinking about number 3, which is out next year. So it's like a long way in advance, but hopefully we'll, if it goes really well, we'll just keep going, I think.
You've written a huge number of novels in recent years. How quickly do you manage to write one book?
I can probably turn a book around in about 2 months.
Wow. What's your process? How does it work? Because it's a big job to do so quickly.
It is. I sort of 2,000 to 3,000 words a day. I plot, so I know exactly pretty much where we're going to end up by the time I've started. And then it goes off to an editor, comes back, and it goes to a proofreader, and then we get it out there. So it's it's been a tiring 2 years, but it's been very successful, and I'm sort of amazed at how well it's gone. So
yeah, going from strength to strength. Before this, you've had a varied career, all revolving around writing and creativity. What made you decide a couple of years ago to put your first novel out there?
Well, having worked in TV and film, I was very aware that the creative process is very much dominated by producers and directors and script editors and all that, and controllers and all that stuff. and often stuff that I was writing wasn't going out on television how I saw it. So to kind of gain some creative control, I decided just to write a novel and see how it went, and that meant that I got the characters, the plot, and I could write everything and dictate exactly how I wanted it. And it was just a punt. I didn't know if anyone was going to buy it, but at least I had creative control over it.
Obviously, with your first series, 7 novels, you're kind of in the same zone, in the same set of stories, that whole world that you've created. How was it then moving into a completely different world for the new book and the new series?
It was interesting. I mean, I had to go off to Anglesey. It's quite fun because I get to go off to Anglesey and sort of mooch around and go off on sort of sightseeing boats and all sorts of stuff like that. So that's really interesting. It's a different setting, but obviously the crime genre is kind of fairly standard in terms of the way that plots and whodunits and mysteries develop. And I sort of it's just different characters, different setting. And it's it's fun to be somewhere different as well, just in terms of sort of landscape and sort of slightly different feel to it. So yeah, it's good fun.
When it comes to writing a series like this, when you've got many novels that you're putting together in quite a short space of time, how do you make sure that you're not saying something contradictory to maybe something that you said 3 books before? Do you have to check back a lot, or is it all there?
I wish it was all there. So as I'm writing, and I'll think, oh God, what was the boyfriend's name in book 3? And I'll either ring my editor, or I'll have to look back and sort of try and piece it together. Sometimes it pops into my head, but I'm sort of kicking on a bit now, so my memory's not as good as it used to be. So we get there eventually. But my editor's very good. She remembers most of the stuff.
Yeah, it must be very difficult to remember all of those intricate details. Do you find when you're writing, you kind of get lost in the world that you're creating?
Yeah, no, completely. That's my favourite bit actually, is sort of having my feet up on my desk and a coffee, and I normally have headphones on and listen to sort of soundtrack music, and I can get lost for sort of 2-3 hours just sort of tapping away. And yeah, no, it's lovely. It's not it's not really a job, is it? It's quite a nice way to earn a living.
Yeah, you've certainly made it sound very appealing. You obviously have a background in film and TV. Could we see these move onto the screen? Is that an ambition? Is that something you'd like to do?
Yes, I'm just in negotiations with making my Snowdonia series into a TV series. So I can't say too much, but we've talked to a very well-known actress. We talked to a very well-known producer and writer. So it looks like there lots of people are kind of buzzing around saying they really want to make it. So fingers crossed that goes ahead.
Can't wait to have you back to talk about that. I need more information. So obviously now you're looking forward to the release of The Dark Tide. Where's the writing process now then? Are you already books ahead?
So now, because I have now 2 series on the go. So as we speak, I'm writing, it's now book 12 of the Snowdonia series. So I'm quite a bit ahead of myself. And then I'll go to book 3 of the Anglesey series after that. So but I love writing, so I can't complain.
Absolutely. Could there be a 3rd series? Is there one bubbling away?
Yeah, well, people have asked me. I sort of need to. It's about finding time. There is one bubbling away, but I'm not sure yet. So we'll put that on the back burner until maybe next year.
There we are. That was Simon McLeave there, and The Dark Tide is out today. Time for a final break now, but coming up, a central London exhibition that mixes art, technology and vivid light displays. We'll take a look at the Future Shock installation, which is on in the capital all summer.
From breaking news to headline events, the latest trends and places to be.
You can now keep up to date on daily life in London across London Live's social platforms.
Start the day with an update on the travel and weather. And know what's on around the city and and what's being seen by others.
With stories from London Live's team of reporters and your videos of the news moments that matter.
Minute by minute. That's London Live News on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram and more.
Find us at London Live. From breaking news to headline events, the latest trends and places to be.
You can now keep up to date on daily life in London across London Live's social platforms.
Start the day with an update on the travel and weather, and know what's on around the city and what's being seen by others.
With stories from London Live's team of reporters and your videos of the news moments that matter.
Minute by minute. That's London Live News on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram and more.
Find us at London Live. From breaking news to headline events, the latest trends and places to be.
You can now keep up to date on daily life in London across London Live's social platforms.
Start the day with an update on the travel and weather, and know what's on around the city and what's being seen by others.
With stories from London Live's team of reporters and your videos of the news moments that matter.
Minute by minute. That's London Live News on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram and more.
Find us at London Live.
Welcome back to the final part of London Live News. Now, an exhibition that mixes art, technology and vivid light displays that literally wrap around you has opened in the capital. Well, set in a former underground car park, the show is designed like a gloomy maze where it's easy to get lost in the darkness. Well, it's by 180 Studios, who've allowed for 16 installations that blur the lines between physical and virtual artworks. Well, let's take a look at Future Shock.
It is very, very immersive. You love the sound, the visuals. I would say that there are some works that I found a lot stronger than others. There are some works which have like a deeper message and they carry through stronger than the others. And there are some that where you think, visually, I'm very impressed. Do I get something more from this? Maybe not. I love what UVA do with light, where you've got little beams of light crisscrossing as you walk through them. It's almost like you're walking through laser grids. It's kind of meditative, but also it's kind of, oh, there's a bit of fear in you, you know, what's going to happen. You know, you think of lasers from movies, you think they might slice you up or anything, but they don't. I do think that this exhibition doesn't really apply to the common labels, because there is art here, there is design, there is technology, and I think that's what they're really going for. So if you're a hardcore art person like I am, you might think, oh, I'm not getting any meaning from the works all the time, but I don't think that's what they want. They just want you to be immersed and see what technology can do and see what fashion links in with it. So does art. So I wouldn't label it as a pure art exhibition, but obviously if you come here looking for art, you will get a lot out of it as well.
This piece in particular is about experiencing the sound physically throughout all the senses. There's this very beautiful musical piece, so you can experiment that as a musical piece. But if you can just kind of do one step away and see like how it travels, how the light follows. It's a pentagram. It's a musical pentagram made light, made smoke. So that's what is behind the vortex, and that's the message behind the vortex, experiencing sound.
There we are, Future Shock at 180 Studios is on until the end of August. Now, the Florence Nightingale Museum has reopened its doors to the public after being closed for over 2 years due to the pandemic. Director David Green says that the museum aims to educate visitors of the nursing pioneer's legacy and encourage young people to consider nursing as a future career. Well, the museum welcomed visitors back today, which is in fact Florence Nightingale's birthday and International Nurses Day. Let's take a look.
The museum's very much inspired by not only the work of Florence Nightingale, but also the legacy that has gone on since she left us 200 years ago. Ultimately, we like to tell stories of contemporary nurses, those who care for us every day. A good example would be our Family Corner, where we took a group of nurses from St Thomas's Hospital who were doing the Florence Nightingale Award, which is all about high standards and compassionate care. The museum is very much a charity, and so first of all we have to really concentrate on making sure we have the funds to open every day. We run a visitor operation, but it's very important that people enjoy the experience. Customer care is really important to us, but we have the highest of standards in terms of collection care, conservation, and making sure we do really effective storytelling that inspires everyone. But we want people to leave and tell people they've had a good time, they can learn, but in a fun and entertaining way. I think my favourite part of the museum is very much when we get letters from school children. We run a really exciting schools programme here where they get to meet either a Florence Nightingale character or perhaps Mary Seacole. And when we get the letters and they say to us, we came along, we had a really great time, I know this, I learnt about her lamp, I learnt about what she did in the Crimean War, and actually I'd really like to be a nurse when I grow up. Nobody could not get a buzz from that feeling, because that's what, to me, museums are about, inspiring the kids and saying thank you to those people today who work with us.
I'm really supportive of the museum. I think it's fantastic that we have such history here at Guy's and St Thomas's. When Dave, the director, approached us years ago to be a part of the museum, really bringing contemporary nursing with the history. And it's really important that we learn from history, and you know, we often can come down here and have a look around the exhibition and you always learn something new or something different, and it's really interesting. When you find your place in nursing, I think it can be really rewarding. I've really found my moment, I suppose, within my career. And I've really enjoyed the journey that it is and continues to be. So I hope that it does inspire generations to come. And when you see, you know, kids coming here to the museum and dressing up and learning the stories and the influence and the importance of nursing and the place it has in history, I hope it'll inspire many, many more to become nurses.
I'm the learning manager, and I also have the privilege of playing Florence Nightingale as well. She was an incredibly political person. She spent all of her life campaigning for reforms in social care. So I think we can't ignore that in the way we approach the museum. We want to celebrate that legacy of her. She fought for healthcare in workhouses, for the health rights of prostitutes at the time, which no one else was really doing. So I don't think we can forget that about her. She was more than just clean hands. So my favourite objects in the museum are actually the references to the animals she had. So we have her pet owl, which is quite an unusual one, and we also have the shell of the tortoise, which was a Crimean war pet. Because Florence was actually one of the first people to realise that animals can work as therapy for people that are unwell. So we tried to kind of introduce that into healthcare as well, which from a personal side, I really enjoy. It's so lovely to finally be reopening our doors to the public. We have been quite lucky. We've been able to continue offering school group sessions as well, which is obviously very important in my job. And it is lovely to see children so inspired by someone 202 years old, and the fact that her legacy continues and we're able to be part of that is really special. I often get told off a little bit by Florence. Ensure they've all got clean hands and are sitting up straight, but I do find once the dress is on, the posture automatically changes, but definitely the strict prim and proper of Florence Nightingale. Well, she's quite often, yeah. It's often the kind of sounds more than the words, but I do always check for clean hands. Show me your hands, please, before the children can do anything, which is great fun.
There we are, the Florence Nightingale Museum there, and you can check that out. It's on the South Bank and reopens today with more info on their website. Time for a final check on the weather now. Well, this warm weather is set to continue with temperatures staying in the double figures, around 10 degrees overnight and tomorrow morning. Well, tomorrow it's a little warmer than today, sunny intervals and some cloud with temperatures around 21 degrees. Looking ahead to the weekend, it should be a glorious Saturday, sun all day and highs of 22. On Sunday, the cloud creeps in a bit, but it's still lovely and warm at 21 degrees. That's it from us tonight. Thanks for watching the show, and we'll be back with more news from across London at 6 p.m. tomorrow. See you then.